Yeah, Monument Park.
Monument Park, to be exact.
Pretoria.
Sort of Midrand, but a little kind of north of Midrand.
Pretoria.
Pretoria, okay. Got to make sure we get that right. So I'm here at the Soltech campus with Paul van Deventer. Paul, it's a pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. You know, a lot of my viewers have had questions about Soltech. They didn't understand what it's all about. My understanding back in the day was that this was a campus that was relatively recent, and it was started by Solidarity to provide technical training at the university college level for students. But my understanding was a little bit off. You've actually been around longer than just the last couple of years.
Yes, we've started in 2007 already.
Whew.
So we had our 15-year anniversary this year. So we started 15 years back with different trades, and about 2.5 years back we moved into this new campus, world-class campus, very nice big campus, and as we discussed earlier, built during the COVID lockdown period, where we had 2 to 3 months we couldn't build. And it was still finished within time, under budget in that period.
That's absolutely incredible given the circumstances. Give me just a moment, folks. I want to double check to make sure we're live, since I don't have a producer sitting here doing that for us. Also, this thing did not record, so there we go. Be patient, audience. What's going on here? There we go. It doesn't want to play nice. All right, there we go. All right. We do have an audience. We're good to go. It's always important to find out if you actually have an audience there. When I'm sitting at home, I have my studio in front of me. I can see if there's an audience or not. Then I know if I'm just going crazy. So on time, under budget, despite the construction delay because of the lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the reason for that is basically had the right people on the project, people that's here for the right reasons, not for money, and within budget. And if you have the right people on the job, you can do that.
Well, I think after having walked around this campus and seeing what's happening here, and having talked to you about the program and the curriculum that takes place here, it seems pretty evident that this is an example of, and if I get the word wrong, correct me, self-bestuur.
Self-bestuur.
Self-bestuur. It really is self-reliance. It really is an example of a community getting together and making a decision to do something 15 years ago, but then you built this new campus the last few years.
Yeah, Chris, you know, we just got to a stage a while back, some years back, that we said we cannot rely on the state. We have to look after ourselves. If you take something like Afrikaans training or mother tongue language training in South Africa, there are no institutions like Soltech left that do training in Afrikaans. So we give the opportunity to learners that still wants to study in Afrikaans. We do it on a very high level, and our students are very successful. And we cannot do that with any state subsidy. We have to rely on our own money, on our parents' money, on our members' money. And that's how we've done that. We've spent about 70 million rand on equipment thus far. We've built this campus. This campus was about 200 million rand. We're busy with another 200 million rand hostels across the road. And all of this, we have to make sure that it's sustainable. It's on a very high level, and it's funded by ourselves.
Yeah, so there's no state involvement whatsoever.
No.
Other than accreditation and oversight.
Just the accreditation. We're on a very good foot with the regulatory bodies. They fully accredit us. They support us. We help them train for the country. The state cannot train themselves, only for the country. We need about 30,000 artisans to be trained every year. We struggle as a country to train half of that. And now I'm not talking about high-level training, I'm saying just normal
apprentice
training,
level, just entry level.
So what we try to do here at Soltech is obviously we train on a very high level to make sure that our students are successful, and our students show that they are successful, and the industry out there stands in queues for our students, to appoint our students, for a simple reason, and that is they are properly trained on high-tech equipment that they use in the industry.
Well, you said that the industry stands waiting for your students. That would imply that there's a high employment rate for graduates here.
Yes, so we see our statistics shows that about 94.7% of our students find jobs within the first 6 months. 56% find jobs the day that he or she are qualify.
So you walk out with your sheepskin and you got a job.
And you immediately get a job.
That's pretty good.
I can also tell you that 21% of our students starts their own businesses.
That's a very high ratio.
It's a very high ratio, although we believe it can be higher. So this year we started with programs, entrepreneurship programs, basic admin, finance, all those things to assist our students for more students. We actually believe that up to 30% of our students can start their own businesses. But then 37% of our students also ends up at businesses or employers that's got more than 250 employees.
So large businesses.
That's your large businesses. And then, the other remarkable statistics is our students start at a very young age of a salary between 25 and 35,000 rand per month, and they very quickly move up. Recently, we had heard from employers that say something like Megatronics, which we just started now. They are such a scarce skill that they are willing to pay 55,000 rand for a young student to start as a mechatronic technician.
Wow, that's incredible. Right out of the gate, they start
right at the gate.
And I suspect they probably do things to keep them working for the company, probably some other benefits.
Just simply because of the scarce and simply because it's not been trained anymore.
No, I understand. In the States where I live, they're paying people $23 an hour to work at McDonald's because we can't get people to work. So that's the free market. Labor's needed and they get paid more.
Yeah, Chris, we sit with a knowledge industry. We're not a industrial industry. We sit with a knowledge, and knowledge is power. So you have to be trained properly to find proper work and stay in South Africa. One of our main reasons for giving this kind of training is we want to show young people that there are opportunities in South Africa. Our students are very successful. Now, we've started with IT training earlier this year. We're kicking that officially off on the 2nd of April. And what we learn from the industry, that there's opportunities, a lot of opportunities for IT people to work in South Africa. They work with overseas, they work in America, but they sit in South Africa, and that's also excellent news for us.
So speaking of opportunities, you have something around 1,000 or a little bit more students on campus?
Yes, so on campus we've got at any stage about 1,000 students busy with training, and then out in the workplace another 1,000. So we've got about 2,200 students at any time busy with different phases. So that's
your active enrollment's about 2,200
at any stage. Yes.
And just to dispel some myths or rumors about going to school here, the standards for getting are academic. You have to have high academic standards. You have to pay your way as well, unless you're fortunate to find a sponsor or a scholarship that's possible.
Correct.
And the medium of instruction is Afrikaans. Correct. Is that correct? So
that's correct.
Any South African that meets the standards can come here?
Absolutely. You need to have your maths and science on a matric level. You need to have you need to pass our entry test. You need to be comfortable in Afrikaans environment as a teaching language.
It doesn't have to be your first language, as long as you can understand it to learn.
And even if you ask a question in English, you will be answered in English.
What about Tswana?
No, a little bit more difficult. But your basic instruction of language is Afrikaans. And then lastly, you need to be able to pay. You need to be able to pay your tuition. And if you meet those criteria, you're more than welcome.
Well, I think that's important for people to understand, because a lot of people that don't know about the campus have preconceived notions about what it is and what it isn't. And I think it's important. We just noted that if you're South African and you meet the academic standards and you're able to pay and you're comfortable in Afrikaans, then you can apply, pass the test, and you can get in here.
Absolutely true.
So we talked earlier, and we ran into a lady who was instructor here, a teacher, professor, whichever term you use there.
Lecturer, yeah.
Lecturer, yeah. I was a lecturer, so I appreciate that. She's a lecturer, and she was one of your first graduates, and then went into industry, and now she's come back. She's paying it back.
Yeah, so it's very important for us to make sure that our lecturing staff age come down. About 6-7 years ago, our average age was 52. Now we brought it down to 38. So we made, the past 10 years, we made an effort on getting our young people trained as lecturers, and now they're taking over from the more experienced people that's retiring. Obviously, it's sad. There's a lot of experience that sits there. So we try to keep that experience alive and ongoing as long as possible. We have certain staff here that's been with the college since the start, 15 years already. They're at retiring age, but they will keep on. They keep on giving back. They train our young lecturers, and we make sure that we transfer the knowledge of the experience to the younger generation.
Now, you mentioned 2,200 students at work projects and a campus total. Is there a big demand? Are the classes full, or do you have thousands or hundreds of applicants that can't get in?
So we've got 4 intakes per year, and we are fortunate that all 4 intakes is almost full. There are certain gaps. Electrical, for example, is full for the whole year, but there are a few gaps at diesel mechanic and millwright and fitting and turning and tool and die maker. There are some spaces open, but we've got a system where you get in a waiting list. So as soon as you meet the criteria, you come on a waiting list, and you will never wait longer than a year, hopefully, but you will get in, and you can be successful, yeah.
So if you're an old toppy and you want to go back to school and you meet the criteria, can you get in?
You can. We've got students here. One student's 48 years old.
Okay.
He starts a whole new career. We've got students in the 30s, but the majority, I would say 99% of our students are between the years of 18 and 19. School leavers,
that's what I see on campus. That's why I was asking if you had some of the older students, because education is a lifelong process,
yes,
and particularly in South Africa with BEE and all the other policies in place. A lot of people are pushed out of industries and they can't work in them anymore, and they want to start all over again. I have a filmmaker that helps me make documentaries in the Western Cape. He used to have a jiu-jitsu program. He ran a gym, and he had he was a tourism guide. All of it was killed by lockdown. So he went to school to become a filmmaker. Now he's a filmmaker.
Yeah. We see it in the IT industry as well. Mm-hmm. So we have a pilot project running at the moment with our new IT courses, and we have got working people doing that course for a career change or to enhance them. So we also get a lot of people working that do our evening classes for CNC programming or PLC programming, or even just something like welding. They do courses in the evening and over weekends, just to improve their skills and to possibly go into a new career.
Excellent. Well, if you've got kids that are coming up in high school and looking to graduate and want to make something of their life, maybe go into a technical profession, or you're just someone who wants to change a career field, how can people find out about Soltech, and where do you find to apply and what the standards are?
Yeah, Chris, the easiest way is on the website. Okay. It's www.soltech, sol with sol-tech.co.za. That's the easiest way to get in contact with us. Or we've got open days. So next week, the 23rd and 24th of February, we've got our first open day for the year. And people come from all over the country and drive very far to come and visit and see for themselves. So that's the easiest way. We also we make it easier for people from Western Cape and other provinces. We allow them to write tests online, so they don't have to come here to have entry tests. So there's different ways, but the easiest way is on the website to get all of us.
Excellent. Well, any future plans for potential growth or extension campuses or something like that?
Yes. We are doing research at the moment to see where the other opportunities are apart from trades. We now already move into IT. Now, IT, I can tell you, will escalate a lot. We will broaden that. We have vendor neutral training, which is very generic training, but we're going to do vendor specific training like your Microsoft and all those different products.
Oracle and so on.
All that will be included. And then we see a huge opportunity on the technician side between, for example, in the old days you will talk about the engineer and the artisan, and in between the technician sides we see opportunities there. We're busy doing research to see what we can do next and see how we can just make more young people employable. That's what why we're here.
Well, it's desperately needed in this country with all the challenges between security and electricity and collapsing infrastructure and racial policies by the government. It's difficult to find employment, especially if you don't have many skills. So it's, I think, a valuable contribution for South Africa. It sounds like with as much as your graduates are in demand, you're doing a public service for the economy.
Yeah, we do. We do it for South Africa as well. And the other interesting area is we need to prepare ourselves to train for jobs that doesn't exist yet.
In the future, robotics and AI.
And we're starting that. And people also ask us, what about electrical vehicles? Well, in South Africa, it's a little bit early
There's no lights. We'll talk about electric cars later.
But that will come. Solar, for example, is the next thing that we need to train. So we're busy with our solar project. Unfortunately, in South Africa, you've got a lot of solar installers now, which has not got the proper training. And
no, there's a lot of dodgy installations. I know someone that had a installation installed and it wasn't grounded properly, and it worked perfectly until a lightning storm, and he lost 400,000 Rand investment.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of opportunities. We would like to stay in front and use that opportunities. And that's what we want to do.
Excellent. Well, Paul van Deventer, it's a pleasure to meet you today and chat with you about Soltech. It's a fascinating campus, folks. It's not big like Ohio University, where I went, but it is obviously having an impact for the benefit of South Africa. And for those who speak Afrikaans, it's a great opportunity, if you meet the standards, to come here and develop a skill that could put you in good stead in the economy. Paul, bye donkey. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right, we're still live, folks. Let me shut it down. You guys know I got to come back to the camera to shut it down.